Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Downfield Read streaming podcast, where this week we are officially in the regular season of the NFL. I have two very special guests with me today. As always, I guess, Dan Brown Jr., who I should almost call like a co-host or something at this point. You've been on more of my shows than anybody else, but Dan, welcome back. Thank you for joining me again today.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure.
Not a problem. And then we've got a new guest in Susan. Susan, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm doing really well.
All right. For those of you out there that have seen the show before, obviously you know about me, you know about Dan. I'm obviously a Ravens fan. Dan is a Chicago Bears fan. Susan, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you've got going on?
All right, so I'm going to start with my teams. I'm a Rams fan and a Cowboys fan. Grew up watching the Cowboys with my dad. I live in Texas, so that's almost nostalgia at this point. Like, go boys, right? And then the Rams, my spouse's family is all from the St. Louis area, and so they're huge Rams, Royals, Chiefs fans. And then when the Rams moved, they just followed the fandom, right? But I'm Gridiron Goddess. I run an Instagram, and Threads is where I'm most active. And our goal is to help beginning fantasy football players. Later this week, we're going to talk about, or like on my Instagram, we're going to talk about what to look for when you're making start-sit decisions. I'm not the person who makes my rankings and will tell you, like, I've got this person ranked this way, so you should start them. I'm going to say, hey, look at who they're playing. Look at the weather. Start your studs. Those are the type of things that I'm giving for new people to fantasy football, specifically women. I have more followers than I have men and women followers, but my goal is to help new fantasy football players. So.
Oh, that's great. And it was funny because I was just talking to Dan earlier about how one of the next shows that is going to be coming up, and maybe we do it tomorrow or the next day, is today, obviously, we are doing the pre-regular season NFL power rankings. So by no means is this, something where we think this is how the teams are going to finish at the end of the year. This is going to be a very, up and down type of thing. But how preseason kind of played out, how the free agency played out and all that. We're going to go ahead and go over the 32, and it's my 32, so it's not Dan or Susan's 32. It's my 32. I'm going to get their reactions to it as well. They can have, their opinions, obviously, about, their top 32. This is going to be the first time that they're seeing it as well. But later on in another show, obviously, we cover non-fantasy football and we cover fantasy football. We're all in the same fantasy football contest. Tournament, if you want to call it that.
League, yeah.
With Fantasy Turf Wars, we'll plug them again. It's 4 divisions of 16 teams. We are all in different divisions. I'm in Division 4, Dan's in 2, Susan's in 3.
Yep.
So we don't play each other, maybe, until the end, where the top 2 of each 16 goes on to the playoffs and play each other. So it's a really fun thing. If you don't know about it yet, go ahead and check it out, Fantasy Turf Wars. Otherwise, you can just listen to us talk about it too. But we'll get into like fantasy rankings as well, probably throughout the week. So, Susan, love what you're doing. That's awesome to get more women involved with it.
Thanks. Yeah, there's actually 38. So I've been playing fantasy for 10 years now.
Nice.
Gridiron Goddess started not that long after the Super Bowl, but 38% of fantasy football players are women. That's over 10 million female fantasy football players, and there's not a huge space that's like aimed at them. So that's kind of why I started doing what I was doing.
Do you think Taylor Swift helped out at all?
100% Taylor Swift helped out. 100%. And I'm a Swiftie myself. Actually, this shirt, I'm going to show it to you. It says, "I dreamt of you all summer long." And it's faded, but because I've had this shirt a long time, but it has like the X's and O's of a football play.
Oh, very cool.
So it's a Taylor Swift football shirt. I've got this shirt on my store and with some other merch, but she definitely has helped.
Very nice. Hey, Dan, I have my own thoughts about this. Can you be the fan of 2 NFL football teams? Is that a thing?
You can, but typically not in the same conference. So that's the hard part, right? Like you want an AFC, NFC, sure, why not? But I don't care. It's not like they're in the same division, right? So it's not like it's Cowboys and Eagles. That would be really weird.
That would be very strange. I am more of a fantasy player. Like I'll put on who I'm playing. Like I'll put them on.
Yeah.
So it's not like diehard fandoms or anything. But
Fair enough. Who are you going to cheer for if they both make the playoffs?
probably the Rams.
But it's always the Cowboys' year.
Always. It won't be their year until Jerry Jones goes away.
You know what? I'm starting to get that feeling. Well, what do you think? Should we dive into the 32?
Yeah, let's
get it.
All right. So here we go. There's our top 32 board for those of you keeping track at home. We're going to start from 32 and work our way up, and we'll briefly discuss each one of the teams just to see what everybody thinks about it. And my first team, anybody got any guess on the first team?
Patriots.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. Yeah, how could you not say the Patriots, right? They've got no idea who their starting quarterback is going to be, although they're starting Jacoby Brissett. I think they're just trying to save Drake May's life until they figure out the offensive line. But other than that, new head coach. They've got a very hard schedule this year that's tied for 9th overall. I'm not seeing a whole lot of things coming out of New England that are good anymore, which is funny because 5-6 years ago, they would have been at the number 1 spot. And how the mighty have fallen. But what are your takes on the Patriots this year?
It's going to be a long year, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, protect Drake May by not throwing him out there behind that line. Don't do what the Bears did to Justin Fields against Cleveland. Yeah, and that schedule's terrible. So, yeah, it's a 4 or 5 win team tops. So, 32 seems right.
Are they going to be gunning for that number 1 pick to get themselves a receiver to go with Drake?
Yeah, that would be
probably
an interesting
a big offensive tackle.
Well, let's face it, they need a lot of pieces. But
yeah, right.
I mean, if you look at
that's true.
Either of you guys have any Patriots on your team, your fantasy teams?
I drafted Bourne to put on the pup, just in case. And then I am taking shots on Demario Douglas.
Okay.
Through preseason, he emerged as like he's available. He's the one, and so maybe as a flex fill-in for bye weeks, it's somebody who at least has some semblance of a floor. You're not gonna get a goose because he's still the number 1 receiver on the team. Now, when Bourne comes back, we'll have to see how that shakes out. But for now, at least there's somebody who is somebody has to catch passes.
Yeah, exactly.
And Brissett is a serviceable quarterback. He's a serviceable quarterback. He's not terrible. So
I like how you held that back a little bit. He's not terrible per se, but somebody's got to catch passes, right? And New England's going to be behind in a lot of games. So going wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, maybe, depending on if Drake May comes in, how he does at that point. All right, so Patriots at 32. Anybody want to take a shot at 31?
Panthers.
Wow, you guys are good. And I swear these guys have no idea what my 32 is. Yeah, Carolina Panthers, same kind of situation. I don't think that they got much better over last year. 2 wins last year? They've got another new head coach. I don't know. Did they make enough additions really to be a much better team? And I'm thinking the Panthers, myself, they're, maybe they get 4 wins this year, which sounds terrible, but it's twice as many as what they had last year.
Woo-hoo. Yeah.
Yeah, they bolstered the defense a little bit. They brought a lot of guys into the defense, spent a lot of money there, brought in Deontay Johnson to kind of be that go-to guy since Adam Thielen's getting really, 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 really old. I still probably would have put them below the Patriots just because Drake May is better than Bryce Young. But yeah, I mean, you're splitting hairs between these 2 teams.
Do you not have faith in Dave Canales to come in and lift Bryce Young?
Well, no, because I don't think Bryce Young can be lifted. I'm very low
Oh,
on Bryce Young. Baker
okay.
Mayfield, he was in the league for how long? So like he's seen it all type thing. So it was easier for him to pick up what Canales was laying down. Um, and it's not
Okay.
like Dave Canales, had a great run game to help Baker. He just kept getting 2.5 yards a carry out of Rashad White and just throwing him the ball the whole time. So it's not like, uh, I don't know. We'll see. It could. I mean,
He did good things for Gino too, though.
yeah. I mean, it can't.
So
It can't get worse,
that's, I mean, you're not wrong there.
Well,
I
let's face
think
right?
it, 6 wins for the Panthers this year would be like a banner year. They'd throw a parade if they had 6 wins.
Yeah. I'm
yeah.
just not. I'm just not a big. Just not a big fan of the quarterback.
I'm not either. I agree with you. And even with the new pieces that they got, I mean, obviously they took with their first pick in the draft. They had Xavier Legette. Like you said, they brought in Deontay Johnson. They've got some decent passing weapons now. Not sure how their running game is really going to suit up. But like you said,
I think
it's going to be.
Hubbard is going to, obviously, Brooks is on the pup to start the season.
Yep.
Hubbard finished the season really strong. Once they decided they were done with Miles Sanders, Hubbard did really well for them. So I think if they have a full off season with Hubbard as the starter, while Jonathan Brooks gets better or physically better, and then ease Brooks in, that's gonna make a difference too.
Yeah.
100%.
And get a new quarterback. Just kidding. All right. Let's move on. Number 30.
Let's see.
Washington or the Giants?
Oh, Giants.
I had Tennessee.
Oh, all
Yeah.
right.
I like to see it.
Yeah. Tennessee, I'm not a fan of Will Levis. Same thing that you said about Bryce Young in Carolina. I just don't see it from Levis. He finished in the bottom 30, 32-ish in most stats last year. Granted, he was playing behind Ryan Tannehill. I get that. But I'm just not seeing the Will Levis hype here. DeAndre Hopkins is a little bit older. Sure, they got Calvin Ridley, but they too have a pretty tough schedule this year. And Brian Callahan is their new head coach. And I know about Brian Callahan being the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati. Great. He did great things there. He's a quarterback-minded guy. He started off as a quarterback's coach, but I'm just not seeing it with Will Levis. And I think that there's a reason why he fell from the first round 2 years ago when he did, or I should say last year when he did, 2 drafts ago. I'm just not digging it. But
4 touchdown game last season. That wasn't the flash you needed to see?
Well, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. That and the biggest loss is going to be obviously Derrick Henry, right? They don't have the running game that they did last year. They lost arguably the second or third best running back in the league. Guy's going to be a beast again this year, but now who takes over?
Yeah, the Pollard Spears two-head attack is an interesting thought. I think in Dallas, when Pollard had the chance to be the one and to be the full-time workload, I think he showed that is not his skill set. He is a good complement, like a 1-2. He does really well in a 1-2 punch. So if he and Tajay Spears can be that 2-prong attack together, obviously they don't equal Derrick Henry, but I'm hoping that, and for all of our fantasy teams' sakes, Pollard is still being drafted in the 6th or 7th round, I guess. 6th round, probably, I think, right now. Hopefully that can help at least provide some semblance of worry for a defense so that Ridley and Hopkins can get open down the field for Levis. Now, Levis can't read a defense attack, so that we'll have to figure out. They'll have to figure that out for him. But
yeah,
they've improved a lot.
They have, and they got the second best offensive tackle in the draft behind Joe Alt. They ended up getting J.C. Latham, although I thought it was a little bit sooner than usual. But I think that they panicked a little bit too when Joe Alt wasn't on the board anymore. And they went with J.C. Latham, and I thought he was a very good. You could have went with Fuaga. You could have went with a couple other guys in that spot too, but at least they were addressing the offensive line.
Yeah.
Well, the issue there is they're moving him from right tackle to left tackle, so that'll be an adjustment. Pollard, I think he'll be fine now that he's fully healthy. I mean, he started looking really good at the end of last year once he got healthy, like after Thanksgiving. The defense, they can't be worse than last year. They were pretty bad against the pass. Against the run, they're always pretty good. Offensively, new identity. I think Tyler Boyd will have a pretty big role coming over with Callahan. Knows the offense, can really teach Levis a little bit. I mean, they're bottom third for sure. I think 30 is a little much, just because I don't think their division is particularly good, and they always beat up on each other. But I mean, I'm not gonna hold your feet to the fire over Tennessee. I mean, I hope they're the 30th best team.
Any fears for you, Dan? Like you guys have theirs. That's their first game, Tennessee. You don't. I'm going to guess that you have no worries whatsoever going into this game.
Not from Tennessee. It's more of just we do this every year. We're confident week one, and then the team's not ready. But this year it feels different. You know, our starters actually played quite a bit in the preseason for once.
They did, yeah.
So, and our defense has been together for 3 years. This defense has kind of been pieced together this year. I mean, Will Levis against our defense. I mean, our defense might score more points than Tennessee's offense. So we'll see what happens. But I feel confident. You know, I'm always going to be somewhat nervous.
Tennessee lost a couple of its better players too. I mean, they lost Sean Murphy-Bunting, Autry. They lost Aziz Al-Shahir. So really big pieces, and 2 of them went to Houston. So within the same division. I always forget what division Tennessee is in, but yeah. So there you go. All right, 29. I'll just call it out. Cardinals.
These are fighting. This is a fighting ranking. The Cardinals fans, you're going to be mad about this one.
I know. You know what? And I should have prefaced this too, is there's going to be like 30 fan bases out there that are not going to be happy with this. And they're going to be like, my team should have been higher. And I get that. But you know what? Think of it this way. Maybe it's not that your team didn't get better, but maybe it's just that the other teams that you're playing against did get better. I don't know. I've got the same kind of thing that you have, Dan, with the Carolina Panthers here, where I'm just not a big fan of Kyler Murray. Never was, never have been. He was hurt last year. He's great for fantasy, great. He's a mobile quarterback. I'm just not thrilled about him, and it'll be interesting to see what happens within the next year or so, to see if they're actually going to, hang on to him for the long term. Obviously, there were a lot of questions about his playbook studying habits and all that fun stuff. But 4-13 last year. Did they really improve all that much? Obviously, they went out and they drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. That should be interesting. He's, James Conner had a great year last year as well, but let's face it, he'd been in the league for 7-8 years, and that was the best year that he'd had. He's in his early 30s. Was it a fluke year? Might seem like it, but I'm just not high on the Arizona Cardinals this year either.
Go ahead, Susan.
I mean, I guess I do have faith in Kyler Murray, so that's where my difference is. I do think that Kyler is gonna turn it on this year. I think he was frustrated last year, clearly. I mean, also after being under Cliff, who just felt like Cliff Kingsbury just felt like he didn't really know what he was doing with him, and so now he's on Gannon's second year, right? This is Gannon's second full year with the team. A full offseason where he is healthy. He's healthy to have a full offseason go with the system. I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to be one to beat this year. with the once in a lifetime talent and once in a generation talent of Marvin Harrison Jr. coming in. Benson is there to take over once Connor's done. They're building for the future, and I think they're building around Kyler. I think he's going to stay there.
Yeah, I think as long as Kyler stays healthy, they'll be closer to 20 than 30. But can Kyler stay healthy? He hasn't done it in quite a while. So the defense is still pretty bad, like really bad.
Love
so
the bad.
That's the only concern.
It's going to create shootouts. Kyler's going to have to use his arm.
Yeah, and you know what, Susan, I think you're right too. I mean, I gave them a draft grade of an A- overall. I thought they had one of the better drafts, and not just because they took Marvin Harrison Jr. They didn't do anything stupid, obviously, by trading back down, but they did get Trey Benson, who you mentioned before. They got a guard, they got a tight end. On the defensive side of the ball, they got Darius Robinson later in the first round. I liked what they did in the draft, and they are building a good team. I think it's just going to take maybe a year or two for them to really show what they can do. Younger teams are generally better teams, and they've got a lot of new pieces. But this year, I'm not completely sold on them. But maybe the young guys will surprise. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, coming in at 28. There's your Giants. And as much of a crap show as the Giants seem to be, if you watched anything in Hard Knocks about them getting rid of Saquon and why they did it and how bad their offensive line is.
That was crazy.
God. And then watching Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, when he got that contract last year, was that not the biggest head scratcher ever? I thought for sure that they were going to give Saquon the contract and tag Daniel Jones, and they did the exact opposite. So,
yep.
Somebody there sees something in him that we're missing. So maybe, again, he's coming back. Maybe we'll see something this year different. Who knows? Devin Singletary is a decent player. He did well with the Texans. He is obviously not Saquon. I just don't know that they have the weapons. It just feels the whole team is just like meh. Like that's how I feel about it.
That's the best word to explain them. Meh. They'll look really good 1 week, and then they'll be terrible for 6. So, no, I'm out. There's really not much to say. I mean, the defense has some pieces. Offense has neighbors. The offensive line is getting a little bit better.
Yeah, the offensive line, you feel like it just should be better with Evan Neal. They drafted him 7th overall in 22, and then you got Andrew Thomas on the left side. They drafted him 4th overall in 2020. You feel like that offensive line should be a little bit better. But then for who? For, again, Devin Singletary. He didn't rush for 1,000 yards last year. I think he averaged maybe 4.2 yards per game, which is pretty decent. I don't see him really finishing out the year as the number one guy anyway. They've got 2 really good guys in the backfield there with Tyrone Tracy and Eric Gray. I was really big on Eric Gray watching him in the preseason. I thought he showed a lot of fun flashes in there. But, yeah, not much to say. I don't know if they've got a lot of defensive playmakers in order to really keep them in that division, which is going to be tough all the way around. I mean, obviously, you've got Dallas and Philly. Washington, I think they take some big steps up this year as well. So, yeah. Too bad.
It's not like the Cardinals. I mean, with the Cardinals, their defense not being good, I'm coming from a fantasy standpoint, right? So the Cardinals mean that they're going to have to score. Kyler's going to have to throw. There's going to be passing touchdowns. They're going to have to get stuff going on the ground. With the Giants, they don't have the offensive side to counteract the bad defense. So it's just going to be. I mean, what are the over-unders on their games? I can't imagine they're going to be that high this year.
They're playing Minnesota in week 1, and I think that one, because both teams are so bad, I think the over-under is maybe a 42, and there's a point differential, maybe 1.5. They're just not even sure at the point on which team is going to blow that game, really. But yeah, for them, they're tied for 6th, hardest schedule this year with the Buffalo Bills. I don't know how they got screwed on that one, but man, I almost feel bad for them.
Yeah, I don't understand these schedules. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But
Chiefs never have a hard schedule, and they're always first place. I
Yeah.
don't get it.
All right, moving on to number 27. We just mentioned them. Who are the Giants playing this week? How about the Minnesota Vikings? This comes from somebody who lives in Minnesota. I've got a lot of family and friends that are Vikings. For me personally, I think it's the GM of the team is just sinking this team. It came out a couple of weeks ago. They released, and I'm not sure how to say his last name, Scene, the safety that they drafted 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They now have nobody on that team from 2 years ago. Everybody that they drafted is gone. So
they're trying to be Green Bay.
What's that?
They're trying to be Green Bay.
Well, they're not doing a very good job. I was really high on JJ McCarthy coming in. I thought he had a pretty good preseason. I really thought that he showed some good mojo in there. They drafted him for a reason, but now you're pretty much stuck with Sam Darnold on that team. And last year, while they didn't have a running game with Alexander Madison, this year they've got Aaron Jones. So I'll call that an upgrade there. They still have JJ. They still have Addison. Hawkinson's out for 6 months, though. Addison might be suspended, maybe. I don't know. That fell off for his drinking and driving. But I just think that overall, Minnesota's, again, it's one of those teams that are in a hard division. You got the Packers. You got the Lions, who are going to be really good this year. You got the Bears, who are going to be good this year. Yeah, Minnesota just seems like one of those odd man out type of teams.
And 27, does Sam Darnold play competent football? If he does, they're going to be better than people think, just because Brian Flores in that defense is always really good. And then, like you said, they still got JJ, they still got Addison, they still got Hawkinson coming back at some point after the bye. It just comes down to Darnold and the quarterback room not giving games away like they typically do, right?
Oh, yeah. They lose in a one-score game. I don't remember what the percentage is, but they've got to win those one-score games. They get so close and then can't finish.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nothing really terribly bad. They finished last year 7-10. I'm just thinking they're taking a little baby step back, maybe 6-11 this year. But still, it's just not, that puts you maybe in the mid-20s.
Yeah.
For me, anyway. Drafting again this year wasn't that great. I wasn't impressed. They lost Danielle Hunter to Houston, but then they got Bernard. They got Cashman. They got Andrew Van Ginkel from Miami. So it seems like they're trying to piece together that defense. They just signed, Stephon Gilmore. So it seems
that's
like
a big piece.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to build up that defense to compensate for the offense a little bit so that they won't have to always shoot out.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yep. All right, number 26, Tampa Bay. And this might be one of the big ones that people don't agree with, seeing as how they won the division last year. They were 9-7, or 9-8, sorry. I see them taking a little bit of a step back this year. I think New Orleans is better. I think Atlanta is better. So now you've got some competition in that division. And was Baker Mayfield kind of a fluke last year, or was that really the Baker Mayfield that we were going to see? The running game, I'm still kind of weary on. For a guy, Rachaad White, who had the second most carries in the NFL, he didn't have the yards to go with it. He only averaged 3.6 yards per carry last year. They got to get the running game.
He's not efficient.
Yeah, he's not. Or the offensive line just can't open up holes, or he's not seeing the holes. We all know that they've got a great wide receiver crew, maybe top 5 wide receiver crew there with Godwin and Mike Evans. So I don't know, but that's what I see them as, kind of another 6-11 type team this year.
The thing that makes me question that is the new OC coming over. He's bringing the Sean McVay offense from the Rams. He specifically came to the Rams because of Baker Mayfield. That one game, whatever it was, that Baker, this the very end of the season that Baker spent with the Rams. Liam Cohen, I think that's his name, right? Liam Cohen really clicked with Baker. And so when the opening came up for the Bucks, he went and he was like, I want that job because I want to be with Baker. That guy has an energy. He has the ability to make stuff happen. So he is going to do stuff to make Baker shine in a Sean McVay style offense. So I think that is where if that can happen, I think they're definitely going to be an over 500 team. And I do not have faith in Derek Carr and the Saints.
Oof.
So
Well, we'll get to them. No, and I tell you what, and the main reason why I've got them here too, as you kind of mentioned it, they finished last in rushing last year as a team. And to me, games are won and lost in the trenches. If you can't run the ball, you're going to become very one-dimensional. And I don't care if you're Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or whoever, or any other 40-year-old quarterback that I can name. You're just not going to win without a running game, and I'm just not seeing it there.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dan? Justified or unjustified?
I don't think it's justified. I mean, they did win the division last year. There's worse teams that you still haven't put up here yet that they should be above.
All right.
There's like 3 or 4 teams that you've already listed that should be higher than a couple teams that you haven't mentioned yet. So we'll get to it when we get to it.
All right.
Well, have those fights when they come.
Well, we might have our first fight. I'm just saying right now at number 25. No offense, and I felt this way about a couple other quarterbacks leading their teams. Number 1 draft picks can be tricky. Sorry, man. I'm putting the Bears at number 25. And I know this is where we're going to obviously differ. And I differ from a lot of people on this one. I'm not high on Caleb Williams, and I've said it before. He's got a great surrounding cast. Hands down, out of any rookie quarterback that he's coming into, you can't come into a DJ Moore and Allen and DeAndre Swift, and the offensive line isn't terrible. The defense is good. I'm all in on it. Takes the quarterback, and I'm just not sold on Caleb Williams. But I'm going to hand this to Dan because he's got some words. Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he speaks because he thinks it's just such a bad pick for me to put him at 25.
They have the 3rd best strength of schedule. They have a top 5 defense, a top 3 wide receiver group. They have a deep backfield. They have multiple, higher end tight end when it comes, quality. Offensive line is better than people think. It's not going to be Justin Fields holding the ball for 10 seconds and getting sacked, so the offensive line numbers look worse. Caleb's shown you that he knows what he's doing and he can find the open guy. He's not afraid to throw the ball. When he gets out of the pocket, he's still looking to throw the ball. He's not looking to run. And you have Washington higher clearly when they have the worst offensive line and the worst defense in the NFL on both fronts. So this one doesn't really make any sense at all. Even if you take Caleb out of it, they're still a top 15 to 20 team.
I think they could be top half this year.
I agree.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be biased.
I mean, and this comes down to really, what do you think? Carolina has other issues, but what do you think about the quarterback? I think Carolina could be higher because I think he could be lifted. If you think Caleb Williams can handle it, he's good. That can lift the whole team. A lot of this comes down to what the quarterback can do. So if you don't have faith in the quarterback, it's hard to rank them any higher than where you've got him.
Yeah, and for me, that's really about it. I think that Chicago did a really great job with keeping all of their top defensive playmakers last year. I'm not even sure if they lost one, to be honest with you. They literally signed everybody back. For me, it's just about Caleb Williams, and it's not a physical thing. I've seen him play. He can play. For me, I think it's going to be a pressure type of thing, to where even last year in college, he could not beat a ranked opponent. Did not have a comeback from behind win, and it's the NFL now, right? So it's a lot harder. And I think some of the things that defenses will go after are these rookie quarterbacks, especially the guys who might come off as a little bit flashier and want to make a name for themselves right away. And I'm just not sure how he's going to take that pressure. That's what it is for me. I think it's a completely mental thing from him. I don't think it's a physical thing.
That's where I think you're wrong.
Okay.
Because last year he had no choice because his defense would give up 50 points a game. So he had to do anything he could. And he had zero offensive line. So he had zero defense, zero offensive line, zero weapons. So he was forced to kind of be a one-man show. So I don't think it's
Time
mental
will
at all.
tell.
I think that's what kind of sets him apart from all the other quarterbacks in the last 3 classes. So, but we'll see. I mean, you could be right. I doubt it, but you never know.
Well, then you get to come back and you get to rub it in my face. How about
Oh
that?
yeah, because you probably have Ravens top 3 for no reason. So.
Oh, ouch. In the heart.
Yikes.
All right. On to 24. Somebody that Dan had just mentioned. The Washington, not Redskins, no matter how much the head coach Bay wants to call them the Redskins. They're not. You can call them the Commanders. You can call them the Salamanders, the Commodores. I don't care. They're just not the Redskins. So I've got the Redskins right there at number 24. And again, it's a little bit with the quarterback. It's the rest of the team. The wide receiver group doesn't look as strong now after they got rid of Jahan Dotson after he's in Philadelphia. But for whatever reason, I like Jaden Daniels a little bit more than Caleb Williams, and that's what it kind of comes down to. I think maybe Washington and Chicago will have the same record at the end of the year, something close to it. I like the 40 touchdown passes that Jaden Daniels and 10 touchdown runs that Jaden Daniels had on the ground last year. And for me, that says multi-threat. And do I think that means that they're going to make the playoffs? No, not at all. But I think he's a good piece. I think he's a good piece to start a franchise around. Nothing great this year, but again, I think they've got some pieces in place to win 7-8 games.
That's a stretch.
See, this is where I would switch Washington and Arizona, because you're hoping that Jaden Daniels turns into Kyler Murray.
Oh no, I hope he's better than Kyler Murray. I think when I look at Jaden Daniels, I see more of a Lamar Jackson type quarterback,
which isn't very good.
But from
fantasy wise,
yeah, I will agree with you, because even when Baltimore drafted Lamar Jackson, I didn't like the pick. I didn't even like him after his first 2 years, after he won MVP. It's like, okay, great, the guy can run. Okay, but does he win games? Sure, he's one of the highest winning quarterbacks in the NFL.
Regular season.
Is that because of regular season? Yeah. Is that because he's a dynamic passer? Absolutely not. Is it because he's an accurate passer over 20 yards? Absolutely not. But he's hard to catch. He's a Houdini back in the pocket, and I think that's what Jaden Daniels provides for that team.
Yeah, I mean, their backfield also leaves plenty to be desired. I mean, Brian Robinson has shown flashes. Is Eckler washed? We don't know. He didn't look good down the stretch last year. Was it the injury? Maybe. This one, I think that I definitely agree that Washington should be on the far side of this list.
28 to 30.
Yeah.
I'd probably put them at 30. Like I was guessing. I mean, they have literally the worst ranked offensive line. They have 1 wide receiver, 1.5 running backs, and a bottom 5 defense. I mean, I just don't see any avenue that they win more than 5 games.
You don't like Dan Quinn taking over?
Not really. I mean, Jaden Daniels is Justin Fields. Great college passer that can run, get to the NFL. He's going to find out real quick. I mean, Fields ran for 1,000 yards. And still,
Fields, but
he should be. I mean, most people should be, but I mean, who's he throwing to? He's got no protection. He's gonna try and run every single time. He's not gonna have time to throw to Terry, or he's not gonna think he's gonna have time. He's gonna bail it. He's gonna run. He's gonna rely on his legs, or he's gonna get killed. One of the two. I mean,
Realistically, they've got McLaurin and then they got rookie McCaffrey. You've got, if they were smart, maybe they run a dual tight end set with Zach Ertz, who's getting old, and Ben Sinnott, rookie. So
Yeah, the problem is he is just like Fields. His college profile is identical. Great deep ball, short intermediate, leaves stuff to be desired. Middle of the field could use some work. Leaves the pocket way too soon and tries to do it himself.
fair.
We'll see what some coaching does.
All right, number 23, working our way up. We got the Raiders. And after, I don't know, maybe the last few days or the last week, maybe the Raiders should actually be lower. I don't know why. I tell you what, and for me, I don't like Antonio Pierce. Loved him as a player. I don't think he's going to do a good job as a head coach. It seems like there's already some controversy in there. To me, it seemed like he really wanted Aiden O'Connell to be his quarterback. All of a sudden, they bring in Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew shows up. He's playing better than Aiden O'Connell. And now Pierce is like, oh, crap, I got to start this guy. I will give Gardner Minshew this. I love the Fu Manchu and the long hair with the black and silver jersey. He looks like a certified badass. But in a division that's a little bit easier than most, I'm not, you've got Denver, who's got a rookie quarterback in there. Who knows what Sean Payton is going to do? You've got the Chargers, who finished 5-12 last year. Who knows what they're going to do? The only competition that they really have in that division is Kansas City, maybe. So Raiders, for me, not a really great running game, not a great quarterback, and really you're just basing it on maybe Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers for that offense.
I don't hate this spot. I think it's fine for them. They're less meh than the Giants, but they're still not like woo. So I'm fine with that. This ranking for them doesn't bother me.
Yeah, they're bottom third.
Yeah.
All right, and they're in their division. We've got next up 22 Denver Broncos. Like I said, I think that they're going to finish probably the same type of record. Last year, Denver finished 8-9. Could I see 7-8 wins again? Maybe, probably closer to 6 or 7 with Denver. I like Bo Nix. I really like Bo Nix. I think he's one of the deep sleepers. Good. Yeah. I think he's one of the deep sleepers in fantasy. If you got to take a shot on someone late in the draft, I think Bo Nix could be that guy. He completed 77% in college, and a lot of people say, well, it's dump off passes and it's short passes. Okay, sure.
Doesn't matter. He still got the ball out.
Yeah, it's completion is a completion as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it means you're not getting sacked and losing yardage.
Yeah, the one thing that they've got going for him, Javonte Williams, he came back off of an injury last year, so no, he wasn't very flashy. Do they have Cortland Sutton? I don't know. Is there something going on with him that I don't know about? People all of a sudden are starting to hate on Cortland Sutton. They lost Jerry Jeudy.
He had like 10 touchdowns last year, though.
Yeah, I don't see what the problem is. They picked up Josh Reynolds, and of course they got Troy Franklin, who played with Bo Nix. So not bad from an offensive standpoint for Denver.
It should be okay. Their defense is still terrible. And Bo Nix is more of he's not really a downfield thrower.
Neither was Drew Brees. That's why Peyton picked him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a good spot for them too. I'm looking forward to watching that team develop. It's one of the younger teams. Dulcich at tight end is a great athletic talent. He's getting healthy now. It's going to be fun to watch where they go. So maybe next year we'll be talking about them top half.
Yeah, I would agree. They don't have that hard of a schedule this year, 20th overall, so not bad. Should be a nice mediocre year for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
All right, at 21, and this is going to probably be another controversy because I'm not seeing it completely either. The Atlanta Falcons at 21. And here's my problem with the Atlanta Falcons. They make terrible moves. I don't understand, and maybe you guys can help me with this. I don't understand when you've got a rookie running back in Tyler Algier while you go after Bijan Robinson. And yes, he might show flashes, but now you've got two running backs that are really good. Okay, you go out and you pay Kirk Cousins $180 million guaranteed, whatever it is, over 4 years, and then your first round draft pick, you're taking Michael Penix Jr. You go out and you get a head coach in Raheem Morris that has never finished better than third in a division in his head coaching career. And for whatever reason, that's supposed to be a great head coaching decision over the last guy that they had. Obviously, Desmond Ridder was a train wreck. If Kirk Cousins comes back, I like Kirk. I think he's a top 10 quarterback overall. And I think with the combination of him and Pitts and Drake London, you got Darnell Mooney, who was maybe underutilized last year in Chicago. Maybe that offense takes off, but I'm just not a fan of. I'm not a fan of the head coach on this one. It has nothing to do with the quarterback. It has to do with the head coach. And I think he's going to end up losing them games.
Well, head coach is better than Dennis Allen. You got them ranked higher. So, I don't know. They got all the offensive weapons. They got at least a solid offensive line. The defense is underrated. Defense is a lot better than people give them credit for. The offensive system Kirk has been using for 10 years. And they're going to use Bijan like CMC for the most part. So I don't really see a downside to it at all.
I think they're going to be top third. I'm still stuck on it. So if you were the GM and it was draft and you had Algier and you were on the clock and Bijan was there, you'd be okay leaving Bijan on the table?
I might look to trade back for something. I'm always looking for more. That's, my first thought is to go back into more draft equity, but you just had a rookie who amassed what he had in his rookie year, 4.5 yards per carry, over 1,000 yards. And then you go right back to the running back pool when we all kind of know running backs they're not the main priority on an offense anymore. So I get it. Bijan's I'm not saying he's a bad running back. He's obviously he's a stellar running back. But I don't know. It kind of confuses me 2 years in a row where you have basically two people that can play at these key positions when you need a little bit more, even on the defensive side. I thought Dallas Turner was a slam dunk at number 8 last year, and they needed defense because the defense sucked. Let's face it, their top sack guys were Calais Campbell and I think Bud Dupree. They each had 6.5. Whoop-de-doo. I think both of them are off the team at this point. So you had to revamp that whole defense. So going Michael Penix, I just don't understand that draft. But to your question, yeah, Bijan, that would be a hard one to let go. But maybe they can't say reluctantly went with them, but maybe they were kicking themselves in the ass for having, Algier.
Yeah, I just don't know. Rookies getting 1,000 yards is not an anomaly. There were 2 in the 2022 season. Najee did it. There were 2 in the 2020 season. Josh Jacobs did it. 2 in the 2018 season. So it's not. I feel like 1,000-yard rookie running back is way more common than 1,000-yard rookie wide receiver. So if you see a talent, you look at it and you're saying, okay, this guy's good, but we have the generational talent here. So I don't know. I think taking Bijan was the right thing to do for them. But yeah, I think the Falcons are going to be top third this year. This is way too low in my opinion. Now, however, Drake London is scary as a fantasy player. He's being drafted way too high for me to take it in a system that he just hasn't been able to. You haven't seen it yet. Can he do it? 100%. Am I drafting him on the second round as wide receiver like 11? No, probably not. He might be even going higher than that.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And it's probably because I had Drake London on my team last year and I drafted him in whatever it was, maybe the 3rd round.
Oh, yeah, you got burned. Yeah.
It was terrible. But then again, look at who their quarterback was. So.
Yeah.
All right, moving along. Number 20, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Tomlin always goes. He always is 500 though.
You know what? And that's the only reason why I've got him that high. You're absolutely correct. I think the Steelers, and I'm happy to say it, they are a complete shite show this year. I Although they do have, I will give them this, they have the best defensive player. I call him the best defensive player in the NFL. I love TJ Watt. I think he doesn't get enough credit. They put him in the top 5, but you're always talking about one of the Bosas, or you're talking about Myles Garrett. I think TJ Watt is hands down a top 2 defensive player in the NFL out of any defensive position. But their offense is just such a mess. Again, you've got running back by committee, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren. You've got one wide receiver out there. I think that they were really hoping to get Ayuk, but they didn't. So they got George Pickens, and Van Jefferson is their number 2. And then who's throwing the ball? I think everybody kind of knew that Russell Wilson was going to win that job in the preseason.
Right.
And Justin Fields was a work in progress. But you're right. It comes down to Mike Tomlin does not have losing seasons yet until this year. Hopefully.
I think Russ is going to be just fine. I think he's going to, because Tomlin doesn't lose, strangely, because he has winning seasons, they're not going to pull Russ from the field. There are lots of people drafting Justin Fields late in fantasy football drafts, and I think that's going to end up being a waste of a pick. Because I don't think he's going to see the field. I mean, even in Denver last year with the crap season it was, he was still still in top 18 for quarterbacks. He was still a top half of the 32 quarterbacks. He was still top half. So I don't think that we're going to see Justin Fields this season. Unless, if Russ gets hurt, but.
Which he will. I think that offensive line is going to get him killed. They're not looking very good. So unless they get that figured out, Pittsburgh's not really going to be playing for anything. And I agree. It'll be their first sub-500 year of Tomlin's career. But then again, I say that I've said that a lot over the last 20 years. So, I mean, until it happens, you really can't put him much lower than this. So.
Yeah, and they've got the 3rd hardest schedule this year. They're trying to rebuild that offensive line. Fautanu at left tackle this year. So it'll be interesting to see, but me personally, I think they're in the hardest division. So you got to play Cincinnati twice. You got to play Baltimore twice. You got to play the Browns twice. All 3 of them teams should, potentially, I shouldn't say should. I don't think Cleveland's going to make it this year, but all potentially playoff caliber teams. If you're looking at last year too, Cleveland made it. So I don't know. Pittsburgh might be a rough year. Do you guys think that Tomlin's on the hot seat? What happens if he has a losing record this year and doesn't make the playoffs?
I think it's fine.
I think it's up to him. He's there as long as he wants to be.
Yep.
All right. We're going to stick to the AFC. Number 19, we've got the Indianapolis Colts. Are you guys expecting higher or lower from the Colts?
That feels about right to me. I worry about Richardson's ability to stay healthy with the way that he runs. He needs to learn how to get out of bounds, so that he's not being just obliterated when he decides to run, so that he can stay on the field. He will help them when he's there, but if he can't be there, that's going to be a problem. I do like Jonathan Taylor a lot, and I think Pittman is a really great wide receiver 1. So my worry about this team is Anthony Richardson staying healthy.
I mean, they get a boost because they play Tennessee and Jacksonville twice.
That does help.
Anthony Richardson's not good. He's played 17 games since high school. He's only thrown 600 passes since high school. I want to know why everybody thinks Anthony Richardson's going to be good. The defense isn't great. I could see this team being bottom 5 in the NFL. I know Steichen, he's good, whatever. Sure.
Who's the backup?
Team, Joe Flacco.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's what the team needs is Joe Flacco.
Yeah, isn't that funny? I don't know if
I think if Richardson gets hurt, Flacco makes his a playoff team.
Yeah. And I don't know if you see it this way either, and I'm glad that you brought it up. I see this offense being built more around a pocket passing quarterback than a scrambling quarterback like Richardson. I think they do. I think they win more games if they would just start Flacco instead of Richardson because of
I agree.
I could see that, yeah.
So that's kind of why I put him at 19. To your point, Susan, Yeah, Richardson is the biggest question mark. Who knows if he's going to stay healthy? But they've got a real viable backup quarterback in there that they could just plug in. And if he does the same thing as what he did in Cleveland last year, well, hell, he won comeback player of the year. He's still got some gas left in the engine.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could make this team a playoff team. But, yeah, I think it all kind of revolves around the quarterback play again. Because they do have a relatively easy schedule this year as well.
He's got to be good and healthy. Those are two tough things for him to do.
I really want to see Alec Pierce take a step forward too. He has shown some flashes, and I'm hoping that maybe we can see something out of that.
They could have, and interesting you brought that up. You mentioned Michael Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce. How about Josh Downs? And then after that, you've got Adonai Mitchell. I mean, that could be scary for 4 wide receiver group. You lose one of those guys, and I mean, outside of Pittman, the other 3 could be a number 2 or number 3.
Yep.
So they do have the possibility if they fall behind because of their defense, they can get back in the game.
Depends on the quarterback. If it's Richardson, it's Downs. If it's Flacco, it'll be AD Mitchell.
Yeah. Going deep with AD. All right. Number 18, Cleveland. Too high, too low?
Just right.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with Watson. And did they keep Jameis? Is that who stayed? So yeah. Jameis is really fun. He's not a super great quarterback. And already with Watson not wanting to play. I don't know. It feels like he doesn't want to play. But he's going to sit and get paid and do nothing. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's the problem that you have when you guarantee somebody $250 million is that now they don't have to play. I was always a big believer that contract should be more incentive-based than guarantee-based. But that's just me. They went with Deshaun Watson. They kept Jameis Winston, who is very social media friendly. We'll put it that way. He's always kind of doing the pep talks and that kind of stuff. And then I think they kept DTR. I know that they got rid of Tyler Huntley because the Ravens went ahead and they picked him back up and they put him on the practice squad. So they went there. A lot of question marks around the backfield. I think a lot of people are expecting Nick Chubb to come back this year, which he may, but he's not going to be in the same kind of a thing as last year. Nobody that comes back from that kind of injury within a year is doing much of anything.
Especially when it's a repeat injury on the same knee.
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty. And, coming from, I guess, Ravens experience, the same thing happened to Gus Edwards. It was in training camp a year previous, and the same thing happened to J.K. Dobbins. And, not a repeat occurrence again, but it took them a year and a half to really get their legs back underneath them. So I don't think people should be counting on Nick Chubb. You got Jerome Ford back there. Sounds like they almost traded Amari Cooper to San Fran and what could have been a potential trade. They got Jerry Jeudy. Awesome. I love David Njoku. I think he's one of the better.
He's great.
I think he's very underrated.
Yeah, I agree.
He's underutilized.
Yes. And they kept, again, it's like Chicago. They kept all their main pieces on defense. And they had the number 1 defense last year. So their defense is what's going to keep them in games this year. I think you could plug and play whatever quarterback that you want to put in there, and they're going to come out the same.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, moving along. Here's one of my favorite teams. This is one of my sleeper teams this year. New Orleans Saints. Granted, I'm only putting them at number 17. It's on the back half. I think David Carr gets a bad rap. I think he's a top 12 quarterback in the NFL. That's just me personally. His completion percentage, his QBR, his passer rating. Is he always making the best decisions? No. But I think he's a very competent quarterback to put in there. Alvin Kamara is a great asset in the backfield. You got Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. I think their offense I don't know what the offense needs. They picked up Fuaga. Maybe they just need a little bit more blocking in there, but I think they're just seems like 1 or 2 pieces away from really being a good team in the NFC South.
They're a whole offensive line, coaching staff, wide receiver room, and defense away from being a 6-win team. Yes, they're winning 4 to 5 games.
4 to 5. They've got
all they have is Derek Carr and Chris Olave and Taysom Hill. That's it. Dennis Allen has told you he hates everybody else. Literally, he has told you he hates everybody else. They have no running game. Kamara can't run the ball. He can only catch the ball. The defense is getting old and old quick. They have no offensive system whatsoever. I mean, this year it should be better, but that's it. I mean, they still don't have a line. That's why Carr got hurt like 5 times last year. They didn't really address it. So I don't see any avenue where the Saints finish above 26, 27, 28.
The part that's hard for me is I just don't know how players want to play for a coach who talks about them like that.
And their schedule's terrible. They have one of the hardest schedules in the league.
No, they've got actually one of the easiest schedules in the league. They're tied for like 31st.
They're going to start out. They're going to start 1-6, 1-7. Fire their head coach, and have some wholesale changes.
One of the bold predictions on the Fantasy Footballers show, on their bold prediction show, was that Dennis Allen would be out of a job after week 5.
Yes, because they're going to be 0-4. Or, yeah, 0-4, 1-4, whatever.
They've got Carolina at home week 1. I think that's a guaranteed win.
I think that's a loss.
Really? You think they're going to lose to Carolina at home?
I think the Saints as a whole team is terrible. I would not be surprised if Carolina surprised them.
New offense, they don't know how to defend it, maybe. I mean, week one is a crapshoot anyway, because nobody has seen real plays.
That's the only game the Saints can feel comfortable that they have a chance to win in the first 4 or 5. The next 4 after that, they have no shot.
All right.
We'll see.
We'll see. So you're thinking they should have been somewhere around that first column, 28 and down?
Yeah, under Pittsburgh, under Atlanta, under Chicago, under Cleveland, under the Colts, probably under the Titans and the Cardinals.
I would put them between 23 and 27, probably.
Yeah, once you organized everything, they'll probably slide in there. They're not as bad as the Patriots, Panthers, the Giants, or the Vikings. They're better than Washington, but probably better than
maybe the Raiders.
Maybe the Raiders. Yeah, I think they're probably better than the Broncos, because Broncos, I don't know. Their defense is one of the worst in the league. So
we've actually I've got all 4 NFC South teams already done. Are you guys on the Falcons bandwagon this year?
Not on a bandwagon. I just don't
think they could be top third.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that division's terrible. So yes, in theory, the Saints could win it, but I don't think the Saints can keep up with the Falcons.
That'll be interesting to watch. I think it'll come down to those 2 teams. Obviously, I think it'll be Atlanta or New Orleans for the NFC South this year, and I don't know if either team is going to finish more than 10 wins. I don't know if I would bet on either one of them to finish at 10-7.
Yeah, we will find out.
Yeah, we will. All right, number 16.
Time for top half.
How about the Chargers at number 16? And I'm starting to think this might be too high, because where the hell is Herbert? Is he still hurt? He's questionable to play. What's going on?
This is way too high. This is Harbaugh special. We'll put him there just because of their new head coach.
I wonder if I should have just called them the LA Ravens for all the Ravens that they took in the offseason. I mean, for real, the running backs are both Ravens. They picked up Tony Jefferson, I think. He was a former Raven. They're talking to Tyus Bauer, who's a former Raven, didn't play last year. But, yeah, all the Ravens that are going there. And they're picking up a lot of Titans, too, from last year, I guess. But, yeah, running game questionable, although they did get Gus Edwards, who I am a fan of. One of the only guys in the NFL that over his career still has over 5 yards per carry. Awesome. But I think the J.K. Dobbins, that will be interesting to see how he factors in. But their wide receivers are kind of a mess. Obviously, Keenan Allen going to Chicago. You got Joshua Palmer. You're going to hit up DJ Chark and hope that Quentin Johnston comes around with a banged-up quarterback?
I think the running back room is one that is a steady one because you don't have your offensive coordinator bring his 2 running backs with him from another team and not use them. Like, I get JK's recovering, but Gus is gonna fall into the end zone a lot. And I think Herbert will be fine.
And they took Kamani Vidal for when those guys ultimately get hurt. All they had was a run. All they had was a run game and a solid defense. Herbert is overrated. He always does something stupid in big games. Always loses the important ones. Offensive line isn't great. Plus, he's dealing with that foot. I don't know. I mean, I think good defense, run the ball. It's trying to be the Ravens. I get it. Maybe top 20 team. I don't know.
I think this is fine for them. I think this is a good spot for them. They're going to be right on the cusp of being 500, I think.
And they've got an easy schedule too, tied for 27th overall. So that should help them out as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into number 15, Seattle Seahawks. And I was debating on putting them higher, but I didn't want to be seen as someone who liked Mike McDonald too much. Obviously, the old defensive coordinator for the Ravens. But again, I think this is one of the teams where the wide receivers are sick. You've got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, JSN, and then you got Kenneth Walker in the backfield. Like, if they had a legit quarterback, you'd automatically be saying, "Oh, the Seattle Seahawks are going to make the playoffs this year." Fair or not fair?
I think that's fair. I like this ranking for them. I think that's a good spot for them.
Yeah, I like it. I like Seattle this year.
And I'm not, for fantasy purposes, I am not afraid of their pieces. I want Kenneth Walker is going to be great. DK is going to be great. He always is. Even Lockett and JSN. I mean, they paid Lockett to keep him there.
Yeah.
So I am not. JSN may take a step forward, but I don't think he's fully replacing Lockett this year. So their receivers are all, I think, decent options for fantasy football late in drafts as flex positions. Not DK. DK you can play as a starter. I think he's going to be a wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside, but definitely Lockett and JSN will be fill-ins for flex spots on bye weeks if you need them.
That's a good take. I was telling Dan before that in our league here with my second pick, I have a choice of DK Metcalf and DJ Moore. And I literally took it down, and I know people hate this, so I took it down to the last second. I used all 30 seconds that we had, and I took DJ Moore over DK Metcalf.
But he hates Caleb.
I would rather have DK though as my wide receiver 2 than my wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
I think I do trust DJ Moore as the wide receiver 1 for my team than DK Metcalf. In a 16 team, that's hard because I mean he's not going to come back to you obviously, but that was my first 16 team draft. I hadn't done one that large before, so that was interesting.
Yeah, that was fun. I took Debo with my number 2 pick, and then I came back, and like I said, I got DJ for the third. And I was drafting in the 5th spot. So, woo.
All right, let's number 14.
Number 14. I am high on these guys too, so this is a little bit of my another sleeper pick, and they may or may not. I had this team last year. I thought they should have gone 14-3 with the schedule that they had. So I'm going to preface this. And I thought that they were going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. So this is how good my predictions were on this team. I had Jacksonville. It seemed like they had a really easy schedule last year. They had all the weapons in place offensively, and then they just continuously underperformed.
Yeah, it's a quarterback thing.
Yeah, and they gave Trevor Lawrence a massive contract, which was unjustified because I think he's debatable as a top 12 quarterback in the NFL. Statistically, he just doesn't show it. He doesn't.
The problem is you have to now. If you want, if you like your guy in any semblance, way, shape, or form, you have to be paying them like that. So if you want to keep him at all, which I don't think he's so bad that they should get rid of him. I think he is serviceable. I mean, is he going to be better than Derek Carr? Maybe. Like, definitely for me. So
that's pretty bad in itself, though. If you have to say, is Trevor Lawrence going to be better than Derek Carr?
But you don't want to let him walk. The point is, you don't want to let him walk. You don't want to let him walk, so you have to pay him.
He wasn't much better than Fields.
I think when it comes to quarterbacks, and this is the big debate right now, right? You either win with an all-star quarterback like Patrick Mahomes or whoever else you want to throw in there that deserves that 5-year, $250 million, or you get somebody on a rookie contract and then you build around them. And I just don't think that Trevor Lawrence is one of those guys that deserve that high up contract where you can say, "Oh, don't worry, we can build around this guy," and still give him $250 million over 5 years.
Agreed. I mean, I think you're like 10 spots too high here, but
I don't know. I don't hate this. It might be a little high, but I still think they're going to be a plus wins team.
Yeah, I thought maybe 10-7 this year for Jacksonville. ETN is still one of the better running backs in the league. They picked up Calvin Ridley from Tennessee. Or I'm sorry, Calvin Ridley went to Tennessee. Sorry. Evan Ingram, probably another one of those tight ends that very underestimated. I think he had the most receiving receptions out of all tight ends last year. Just didn't get in the end zone. They pick up Brian Thomas Jr. in the draft.
Yeah.
So I think when you're looking at that division as a whole, you start looking at, okay, well, maybe Jacksonville rises to the top a little bit.
Okay.
All right, number 13. I'm not as high on Green Bay as most people are. I don't think they're a top 10 team. I think Jordan Love is an okay quarterback. I think their wide receiver room is not impressive. I think they win in the trenches, though, so that's a plus for them. But outside of that, I think Green Bay is an okay team.
agreed.
I want to see
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I want to see it. I think that they can be good. I mean, their average age-wise, they're the youngest team in the league. I think it's like 25 or something, 25.4 is their average age of their player. And I want the pieces to be there and I want to see it. I'm hoping if Jordan Love is who people think he is, then Green Bay is just incredible at quarterbacks, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't hate this.
And I think he's going to have to be incredible for who they've got. I mean, if you look at the tight ends,
for what they just paid him for a handful of games that he was good in.
Yeah, isn't that wild? I think that's wild.
Yeah.
Their running game improved. Obviously, I think Josh Jacobs is just 1 year removed from being the top rusher in the NFL. Last year it was CMC. The year before that it was Josh Jacobs. So I think they got a much needed upgrade at the running back position. But their wide receivers are all still the same. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, Jaden Reed is the guy." Christian Watson, he's hurt a lot. I don't know. To me, it's a lot of no-namers on that offense, and they're going to have to get pass happy this year because the defense looks just as poor as it was last year. But I think they're good enough.
That's where they're expecting to be better. People think they'll have a top 10 defense. I don't understand why. They've had the same talent for the last 5 years, and they've underperformed every year. Now it's just getting older. So, yeah, middle of the pack.
Yeah, 28th against the rush last year. Not great. Can't stop the run. We'll see.
Yeah. Hey, Jeb, I think you should do that trade. Someone on YouTube asked, should I trade Puka for Jamar Chase? And if it's a redraft league, 100%.
Wow.
Yes. I just wanted to get that before if they were waiting for that answer. So he might not play this first week. We'll see.
Oh, it doesn't look like he's going to at all.
I think he'll be out there.
I think he's sitting this first week.
I think the coaches should, but I think he'll be out there.
I think he's going to put the coaches in a panic for when they have to face KC in week 2, because they're going to need him for that game or they're going to lose.
Well, as long as your wide receiver depth is decent, I say go for it.
Whoop, whoop.
You're not
Either
getting.
way, it's 1 week.
Yeah. So, anyway, sorry. Keep going. Number 12.
No, you're good. All right, number 12. Here you go, Susan. LA Rams.
There you go.
Give us the inside scoop. Rams fan.
I think this is going to be low. I know that they lost Darnold, which is going to mean they have to win more in the offensive side. Puka and Kupp are both healthy. Defenses aren't going to know what to do with them. Kyron Williams catches passes.
And punts.
People are worried about him returning punts. They just want to give him more touches because he's that good. In the first 3 games last season, he was returning punts and still taking 80+% of the running back snaps. So, and with the change, they want their better players getting the returns because they're more likely to get to the end zone in a return. So I'm not worried about that at all. I think their receiving weapons are great. Matthew Stafford, I think, is underrated. So I think this is too low. I think they should be higher than this.
Wild card team, so I think this is fine.
Yeah, they went defense heavy in the draft. Obviously, they picked up Jared Verse, and then they went defensive line, and then they went safety within the first 3 rounds. So obviously, they're going to be missing Darnold, but I don't think that.
Well, Jalen Ramsey is.
Oh yeah.
So good.
Oh yeah. No, I agree with you, and I like Kobe Turner too. I think Kobe Turner is a solid piece on that line. So I don't think that they're losing much.
They just
they
don't
brought in
have.
another tight end.
They just don't have the top end talent on defense. And I don't think it's
interesting to see a healthy Stafford, healthy Kupp. Put him in with Puka. How did you address the Kupp and Puka situation in fantasy terms, Susan?
Puka was being drafted too high for me.
Yeah, I thought so
I just didn't take him. I took Cooper. I took Cooper twice. Once in the 4th round and once in the 5th. So
just a steal.
Yeah, it was. I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely going to take him. He's still going to be the wide receiver 1, I think. When you look at the splits, both of them on the field healthy, there's just that relationship there with Stafford that is just not going to go away because Puka's there. So I think that's going to be fine.
All right. Let's get I want to get into the top 10 here, so let's get through a couple of these real quick. Number 11, I got the Buffalo Bills. I don't think they're the same team. Obviously, they're not offensively. They lost their main offensive wide receivers last year with Diggs and with Gabe Davis. I'm just not seeing it. A lot of people are high on Josh Allen being the best quarterback in the NFL. I think he's the best fantasy football quarterback in the NFL, but I don't think he's the overall best quarterback. I think that they're going to go through some struggles this year. Which is why I've got them at number 11, and maybe they make it as a wild card, and maybe they don't.
Yeah, I'd put the Rams above them.
Yeah.
Because of their receiving core, it's a whole bunch. It's a question. I mean, you saw it last year with Diggs with the new offense. So hopefully, we'll see what happens after a full off season to see who they're going to and what they're doing. But James Cook is going to be great for fantasy football this year. I think he's a really good running back, but I don't know that they're top 10.
Yeah, it's fine where they are. They still might win that division, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I don't feel strongly one way or another.
Dalton Kincaid shot up as far as a tight end in fantasy because of the fact that they don't have very formidable wide receiver weapons.
I wish I knew who it was. Somebody was talking to somebody, and this is the problem, where they were talking about how that offense is going to be fed through Kincaid. He is going to be the number 1 target. So
I wouldn't doubt it. It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. All right, top 10 time.
Woo.
First one, Houston Texans. A lot of people think that they're going to be taking a step back this year. I don't think it's going to be a very big step back. Last year they were 10-7. I could see that same record again, 10-7 again, finishing in the playoffs. I think C.J. Stroud does not have a sophomore slump. I think he just gets a little bit better from where he finished the year last year. I think they got a better running back with Joe Mixon in there. I'm a big fan of Mixon.
Yeah,
and obviously they got Stephon Diggs.
Who do you think is going to be the wide receiver 1?
I think Nico Collins has to be.
I agree. I think it's going to be him.
Yeah, and then they've got Dalton Schultz at tight end. I mean, they've got a lot of weapons, and yes, they lost a couple of players that we mentioned before that went to Minnesota, Jonathan Bernard, Cashman, but they also got Danielle Hunter. They had a lot of pieces leave off of their defense, and I think that's going to be the one thing that is going to be the biggest question mark this year, is they had so many pieces that actually left. Sheldon Rankins, Malik Collins, Blake Cashman, Steven Nelson. They just a lot of guys that were playmakers for them last year are not there anymore.
So they're going to have to keep up.
Yep.
Their schedule is also harder this year than it was last year, I think.
They got an easy division too, though.
Tied for fourth most difficult schedule this year, so
yeah.
It will be.
They'll win at least 5 division games, so they'll be okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Number 9 might be low. I don't think so. Miami Dolphins.
Just trying to remember who's left.
Now we're getting up there with the elite teams.
I know. Yeah.
I don't have the Dolphins in the playoffs, so it's a bit high for me. But I can see it. The offense is exciting. The defense is much improved. I just look at the schedule, back third of the year, where the games are, the weather. It's not very good for Tua.
Yeah, he's afraid of the cold.
Yep. They have a relatively easy schedule even for making the playoffs last year, tied for 24th most difficult schedule, so relatively easy. You still got Tua back there. I still question his durability, even though he's been solid. They got a two-headed monster in the backfield with Achane and Mostert. I think Achane takes more of a primary role as long as he can stay healthy this year. You still got Tyreek. You still got Jalen Waddle. They added Jonnu Smith, who was the second tight end in Atlanta last year. And if you look at it statistically, you had Pitts and Smith, and they were the only tight end duo that finished in the top 20 combined for receptions. So they got a guy who can catch and run with Jonnu Smith now at tight end.
Yeah, because did Gesicki leave last year? Was he there last year, or did he leave this offseason?
He wasn't there
last
year.
This offseason. He's in Cincinnati this year.
And I think he went from New England to Miami thinking he was going to be more of a primary receiver, and then took off, and now he's in Cincy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think this is a good spot for them. If Tua can figure out how to play in the cold, they would be better. But they're just so fast. Overall, they're so fast, and that's where their strength is.
I mean, their last 3 games are brutal. I mean, I think it's home against the Ravens, and it's at Cleveland and at the Jets. They have to clinch a playoff spot by December, which is almost impossible in the AFC. Yeah.
Their last 5 games, they've got the Jets, Houston, San Fran, Cleveland, and the Jets again. And that's after coming off of Green Bay. And it's if your last 6 games, I don't know.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah.
It's rough.
All right. Number 8, speaking of the Jets. A lot of people think that the Jets are going to be Super Bowl candidates this year. I'm not 100% sold on it. Aaron Rodgers is going to be 41 in December. He's coming off the Achilles. They've got Breece Hall, who's great. They've got Garrett Wilson, who I think does much better this year. Tyler Conklin is not a bad tight end, which, for all of the talk that they were talking about, the Jets are going to draft Brock Bowers because they need a tight end. No, they don't. Their offensive line is a little old. That's the only thing that's really concerning to me. I think this is a reasonable expectation that they win 10, 11, maybe 12 games.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't like Aaron Rodgers, but
I mean they got the 4th easiest schedule in the NFL.
Yeah, I think they're going to be fine. And I think Aaron Rodgers' injury was on his non-plant foot, right? Or was that
And
Cousins?
I mean, he usually throws with no feet on the ground anyway, so
I think it
he'll
was
be
his
fine.
right. God, wasn't it his right foot? I'm trying to think of the video here.
It was him or Cousins. One of them, it wasn't their plant foot, and so one of them, it's like you're expecting it to be better because it's the off weight.
I mean, Rodgers is also like a full year removed from that injury and when it happened, so I'm less worried. As opposed to Cousins, we still have like
Yeah.
another month and a half before we get to the year mark. So
Yeah, that's true.
All right, number 7. Now that we're narrowing down the teams, who wants to take a shot? Number 7.
Baltimore.
Lions.
I got Philly.
Okay.
Why?
Well, it's because how they finished last year. And it's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde. They started off really hot, 10-2, and then they crapped the bed. I don't know if I'm sold on Jalen Hurts anymore. I was sold on him earlier. Obviously, they've got great wide receiver trio again. They got Barkley this year, which should be good. Their defense should be better. They drafted 2 cornerbacks, so their passing defense should be much better than what it is. I still see them, obviously, double-digit wins. They're still going to make a play for, obviously, we don't see the Cowboys up there, but they're going to be making a run at the division this year again.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I don't know. Number 7.
I think it's high.
Yeah, I'm okay with this. I think they're going to be better than. I don't know. Maybe the Texans might be better than them, but.
Yes. Defensive coordinator and Nick Fangio, I think he maybe stirs some things up defensively.
Oh yeah, he's elite. It's more about Hurts learning how to play in a drop back passing offense, which he's never done in his life.
Hurts has been under like a different OC every year. It feels.
Yeah, this will be the first time he's had repeat since. Well, the year they went to the Super Bowl, it was the second year with Steichen. So they're hoping that happens
that
again
bodes
this year.
For this ranking.
But I don't know.
Well, for this ranking.
Yeah, Kellen Moore, he's really good at what he does. So it just comes down to Hurts comprehending everything. He didn't have to call any of the line adjustments last year. Kelsey did.
Yeah.
So Hurts is going to have to do a little bit more of that. Hurts never really played under center. He's going to have to do that this year. So we'll see. But I mean, Eagles have a ton of talent. They should be pretty good.
Do you think we see a lot of tush push again this year, or is that going to go by the wayside since they got Barkley?
I mean, they only did it last year because DeAndre Swift couldn't get the ball in from the 3-yard line. He had 30 carries inside the red zone. I mean, Hurts only got the tush push after Swift or Gainwell failed. Right, then they went to it. So
Gainwell, Boston, whatever the running back choice was.
I think if they have it their way, they don't do it at all now that they got Saquon and keep him healthy because he got hurt last year and he was terrible and Eagles choked. So.
All right. Number 6. Going to the AFC North. Not the Bengals. Yes, the Bengals. Not the Ravens. So Bengals are back. Joe Burrow's back. And this might be a little high. I don't know. I'm a little concerned with the wide receiver draft. Honestly.
What are you concerned with?
The wide receiver stuff. With
Chase?
With Jamar, yep.
He's not going nowhere.
They're going to pay him.
Without Jamar, I'm a little weary about week number 1. If you look at the rest of their wide receiver crew, that's harsh. Tyler Boyd and maybe Jermaine Burton, Trenton Irwin. I don't know.
Boyd's in Tennessee.
T. Higgins.
Sorry. I always get those two mixed up.
Yeah, it's
okay. T. Higgins is the best receiver in the division. Well, outside of Jamar Chase.
He would be number 1 on another team. So
yeah, anybody else in the AFC North, he'd be the number 1.
Burton has shown, I think, that he can that he'll be able to handle it as long as attitude is not the issue that people say that it might be. So I'm not that worried about week 1. I think they'll get it together. I think he's going to play.
And I think this list is primarily based on quarterbacks. So Burrow's a number 2 quarterback in the NFL. So I think 6 is fine.
All right. Even with new offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher, obviously he's been there. He's a quarterbacks coach, but he takes over. Any change there?
Not really. It's still going to be Burrow doing what he wants to do once the whistle blows.
Yeah.
All right, Susan, here we go. Number 5, Cowboys. A lot of people aren't high on the Cowboys. What do you think?
I think it's too high, but I mean, obviously the Dak CD connection is incredible. Ferguson is good. I worry about the running back room.
Okay.
Like everybody else. I mean, you can't say you're going all in Jerry Jones and then do what you did in the offseason. Like,
now, is it just now the big talking point for the offseason was Dallas didn't make a whole lot of moves, and that
Right.
also means that they didn't make a lot. They didn't lose a lot of guys either. And we mentioned Stephon Gilmore before. Okay, what could do? But now they've got DeRon Bland. I think he's out for the year.
Yeah, I think so.
So obviously that hurts. But yeah, really the only thing that's changed has been the running back room.
And which hasn't changed, which is the problem. They brought back Zeke, and people. I mean, Zeke was okay in New England last year. It wasn't like absolutely terrible, but you just can't be a Dallas fan and expect Zeke to be the same old Zeke that he was. He's not. That's just not who he is anymore. Rico Dowdle is. I just don't know. How I feel about the Giants' overall team, meh, is how I feel about the running back room in Dallas.
Okay.
So, and it's hard when defenses know that you're gonna have to pass because your running backs aren't great. There's nothing to account for, and so it's gonna be easier to block to prevent CD from doing what he needs to do. Brandon Cooks is
doing
decent.
It last year.
Pollard was better than Zeke, though.
See, and that's where I think the question mark for me is that I don't see Zeke as being significantly worse than Pollard was last year. And at some point in time, it's going to be Rico Dowdle anyway.
I don't know. They brought in Cook. Like, I just don't know
what
they're.
Dak probably should have won the MVP last year, but.
And I do have faith in Dak Prescott. I am not a person who's like Dak isn't. There are lots of people who are like Dak just isn't it. Dak isn't the quarterback, and I disagree with that. I think he's a perfectly fine quarterback. I think that or a good quarterback, but it just sometimes the pieces around him and the decisions being made around him are not great.
Yeah, it comes down to Dallas and Philly and whoever gets off to a better start.
Yeah,
might be it.
Both learning new defensive systems, etc. So.
Yeah, and that's tough too with the loss of
Dan Quinn, and now you got Zimmer.
Thank you. Yeah. So.
Hey, Zimmer is Jerry Jones's buddy, though. They're friends.
Everybody's Jerry's buddy.
All right, moving on to number 4. A lot of people are going to hate me. Chiefs. I'm not a Chiefs hater, and part of my brain says that to be the best, you got to beat the best. Everybody has Kansas City Chiefs number 1. Here's my take, though. They didn't finish last year outside of the Super Bowl, okay, regular season. When we're looking at regular season, they didn't finish with the best season last year. They were 11-6, which was really, really good. Okay, there weren't too many teams that had a better regular season than they did. I'm just not sold on them. I'm not sold on their wide receiver room yet. Patrick Mahomes can do anything. I'll give you that. He gets 5 stars. Isaiah Pacheco, he's a very good running back. Obviously, they've got Travis Kelce, but he's going to be 35. At what point in time does he start to fall off a little bit? Rashee Rice is good. Turns out he's not going to get suspended. You brought in Hollywood Brown, but he's out right now. So, number 4. Go ahead.
You're out of your mind.
Do you guys think that they three-peat this year? Because if you don't think that they three-peat, then there's no sense at number 1.
I still think they probably get there. They're at least an AFC title game, so they're at least. Only Joe Burrow and Tom Brady have beaten Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. That's it.
Yeah,
Rashi Rice is a stud receiver. Worthy's going to be fine. Hollywood, I never thought he was good. I just think he was good that 1 year with Lamar because nobody covered him because everybody was worried about Lamar running. For some reason, Lamar is considered good. Their defense is underrated. I know they lost Snead, but that's about all they lost.
well, they're going to be back in shootouts again. So
Well,
Mahomes
I
is
don't
going to have
know
to
if they're
make
going
stuff
to.
out.
I think they're just going to blow people out again because their defense is still solid. All they lost was Snead, and that could have been more of a Spagnolo thing. So I don't know how they're not number one, or worst case number two behind San Francisco. They should definitely be ahead of Baltimore. They beat them every year, and it's never really that interesting of a game. And Baltimore got worse. So I don't know.
I think the three-peat's totally possible. Their wide receiver room got better, and basically everything else stayed the same. So,
All right, number 3, Detroit Lions. This is the team that I thought that should have went to the Super Bowl for the NFC anyway last year, and they too did not have a whole lot of changes to their team. Maybe at wide receiver, but you still got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds went to Denver. Khalif Raymond is still there. You got Jameson Williams, Dave Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield. Hopefully he'll get a little bit better playing time, and I think Jared Goff is very underrated. Still got Sam Laporta at tight end, so it's going to be a shootout for them as well every game. So they kept the majority of their defensive pieces as well. They only lost a couple, and they've got a very young defense, and they seem to be drafting very well again year over year. That's the one thing that they've really got going for them at this point is that they draft probably better than most other teams outside of Philly. So yeah, last year, 13-4 last year. They've got maybe a top 10 difficulty in schedule. I don't see why they don't get back to the NFC Championship game this year.
Yeah, I had them on number 3.
yeah, they're going to be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to watching Lions games.
All right, let's get to it. Number 2, the Ravens. I have the Ravens. Danny mentioned before the defense got worse. I don't know. We can debate on that a little bit. I don't think Patrick Queen was Patrick Queen until Roquan Smith showed up. And he wasn't. He was the number 1 inside linebacker before Roquan showed up, and he was awful. Roquan shows up, and now he's good. They drafted a guy, Trenton Simpson, 2 years ago. I think he's going to take over very nicely for Patrick Queen. In the preseason, he was everywhere, flying around the ball. Yeah, they lost Jadeveon Clowney. We could use an edge piece. But I think that's going to be the only thing that really stops us. OBJ wasn't a big deal. A lot of people are like, oh, OBJ wasn't there, a big deal. He caught 35 passes for like 400 yards. What to do? The one thing that I foresee needing to happen here, outside of the fact that they got King Henry at running back, is Bateman's going to have to take a step up in order for the offense to really improve. Their offensive line is a little shaky, but outside of that, I guess we'll tell. We'll be able to. We'll know tomorrow. And I might have to eat some crow if KC comes out and beats Baltimore.
When they do, again, yeah.
I don't know. I think that game's going to be closer than people think. Baltimore is coming out with something to prove.
Yeah, this is going to be a defensive battle, sure, but Baltimore shouldn't be in the top 5.
All right, well, that leaves one team.
All right.
San Fran. I was a little weary of this, and I was almost going to change it just because of Trent Williams not signing. Well, now he's re-signed. Ayuk wasn't, and then he's gone. So it's like, okay, great. So you've got all your
Their pieces are basically the same now.
Exactly. So they've got the exact, almost same team as what they had last year. Why can't they do the same thing? A lot of people don't like San Fran because of Brock Purdy. I think he's a very efficient quarterback. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL that doesn't get enough credit for what he does, especially when you look at passer rating, pass completion. He doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. His QBR is solid. Yeah, he's got a lot of great weapons, but you know what? That's what he's got. You're going to blame the guy for having Ayuk and Debo and Kittle and, a good offensive line, CMC in the backfield? Nah. I think on paper, they are the most complete team in the NFL.
Which is why I had them at number 2. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with them being number 1. Fun fact, last spot of the draft, is called Mr. Irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Did y'all know that there is a Mr. Irrelevant Foundation?
Yes.
There is a foundation and a full week of stuff that whoever is picked last in the NFL draft is named Mr. Irrelevant, and there's like a dinner and events and volunteering and a whole thing around Mr. Irrelevant. And I'm gonna say that helped Brock Purdy.
Fair enough. Who is Mr. Irrelevant this year? Do you know?
I don't know. Let me see. I can. That's a quick Google. Jalen Key from Alabama. He's a defensive back.
They'll probably be pretty good. Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Who took him? It doesn't say. Hold on. The Jets. Oh, he had 1 year of experience at Alabama.
Oh, wow.
He transferred after playing 4 years at University of Alabama, Birmingham. But anyway, silly fun facts.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up because I know we all got things to do. It's almost 11 o'clock. We went over our little hour and a half maybe slot that we were thinking about. Yeah. But thank you very much for the very insightful content. Both of you guys, again, I can't wait to have you guys on another show. We'll go over this maybe midway through the year, and we'll see how this pans out or how wrong I actually am. But
do a check-in.
Yeah, right? Have fun. It's NFL week. Man, we're like, what, maybe 30 hours away from a game. Can't wait. Everybody who loves the NFL, fantasy football, please keep in touch with all three of us here. Get all your fantasy football and normal NFL stuff from us. How about that? All right. Yeah. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we will see you guys again, hopefully very soon.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.